Mike Florio in for Dan Patrick. It's the Dan Patrick Show. Dan, in my homeland of Italy for the week. I am in his home base. I am in the chair. We're going to be talking a lot of football, of the professional variety, but also some college football. And one of the best guys to talk to when it comes to the National Football League, a guy who is out there at just about every training camp in the NFL, our good friend Peter King of Football Night in America and the MMQB.com. Peter, where are you right now?
Mike, we are about 10 miles from the Minnesota border, driving on I-35 in northern Iowa. We will be in Mankato, the home of your Minnesota Vikings, in about an hour and a half.
Have you been passed by Corn Robinson going 150 miles an hour yet?
No, but
allegedly.
If he's trying to make a comeback, he's going to have to hurry, though.
What's the best food you've had? You've been out on the road for several weeks now. What's the one you would point to as the best meal?
I would have to say we had a great meal in a little barbecue place called Hillbilly Reds in Richmond, Virginia. But probably the most memorable food was at Pittsford Farms Dairy, where Sam Flood won't be happy because I should be keeping my figures svelte, but I did have a black raspberry milkshake the night we went to see the Buffalo Bills.
When you watch the preseason games, and I assume you've got to see some of them even though you've been on the road, what do you look for in the preseason?
Most often, and I mean, the third preseason game, Mike, is what we all really want to look for. I'm going to the Eagles' third preseason game in Jacksonville, and actually I want to see both teams there to see what Jed Fish is doing offensively, the new coordinator in Jacksonville. But you just try to see what teams are doing. You see with the Patriots where Tom Brady with Aaron Dobson and Danny Amendola as his two wide receivers, you know, in the standard set, had 2 80-yard drives the first two drives of the game the other night in Philadelphia. So, I mean, you're mostly looking at that. And then I was in Tennessee the other night for the Titans game against Washington, and I watched, you know, probably 30 snaps that Chance Warmack played. And so that is kind of the stuff that I like to do, to watch individual players and people and stories that I think people are going to be interested in.
Visiting with Peter King of Football Night in America and the MMQB.com. Speaking of rookies like Chance Warmack, the interior offensive lineman from Alabama, who's the one rookie that you're most looking forward to seeing in the regular season when the games count?
Barkevious Mingo, the pass rusher for the Browns, because the day I was in Cleveland, first of all, highly, highly impressed by the Browns defense. I think Ray Horton is going to have an attacking scheme. To do that, you have to have guys who can get home to the quarterback. And I think you're going to have Paul Kruger on the left side, and at least in sub-packages early on, you're going to have, you know, sort of the way Alden Smith was used a couple of years ago in San Francisco. You're going to have Barkevious Mingo. Mike, I think, you know, obviously Mike Lombardi, this is almost a one-man draft for the Browns this year. Mike Lombardi loved Barkevious Mingo. And, again, I'm a victim of seeing teams for one practice. I really like the Cleveland defense, and I really like Barkevious Mingo.
Hope springs eternal from the well of 0-0. Every fan of every team thinks that their team could be good this year. When you look at the 32 teams out there, do any stand out to you, Peter, as having no chance whatsoever of getting to the postseason?
I'd be really surprised if the Oakland Raiders could contend. I just think they're a year away from having much of a chance, unless Matt Flynn and this sort of change-up that Terrell Pryor is going to try to be. It sounds like Dennis Allen wants to use Terrell Pryor in that sort of change-up role, but I just think they got way too many holes. I don't know who's going to rush the passer. I don't know how they're going to protect the quarterback. I think it's going to be a long year for Oakland.
And let's flip it around as we talk to Peter King of Football Night in America and the MMQB.com. How many teams do you think have a chance, a plausible chance, of not just getting to the postseason, but going all the way to the top, winning the Super Bowl this year?
Well, let me preface that by saying, you know, in June I was in Arizona. I'm writing something on Bruce Arians for the MMQB.com. And I kept thinking to myself, boy, this defense is going to be solid. I like Carson Palmer in this offense because basically, you know, Bruce Arians wants to throw deep. He wanted Carson Palmer. Palmer wants to throw the ball deep. He's got Larry Fitzgerald. He's got Michael Floyd. I kept thinking, I kind of like this team more than anybody is saying. And so over the weekend, I'm in St. Louis, and I see Gil Brandt, and I said, Gil, of all the places you've been, what's the team you've liked that sort of surprised you? He said Arizona. I have not been to Arizona this camp yet. So, but I think that illustrates what is happening in this league at this time of year. What would the common wisdom be for Arizona right now, that they're like the 23rd best, 25th best team in the league? I don't even know. And I definitely think they enter this year. 4 teams in that division can't make the playoffs, and they might end up knocking each other off. But if a team like Arizona's got a legit chance, and I think they do, then there's an awful lot of teams that do also.
And that's the problem with a team like the Arizona Cardinals. You are placed in advance in a division that may or may not be a division that you can contend in. If you put the Cardinals in the NFC West, the East, or the AFC West, you're maybe in position to be competitive. But in that NFC West with the Rams and the Seahawks and the 49ers, is going to be very difficult for the Arizona Cardinals to advance to the postseason. Talking with Peter King of the MMQB and Football Night in America. There's a lot of buzz about Chip Kelly, the new Eagles coach. He has no connection, however, to the NFL at any time, at any point. And in Chicago, there's a new coach in Mark Trestman, who has plenty of years in the NFL, but he hasn't been in the NFL for the last 8 years or so. What are your thoughts on Mark Trestman, the new Bears coach?
I saw him coach the other night in Carolina, and it was really interesting in the locker room after the game. I wanted to observe Trestman. Obviously, everybody thinks of him as a wallflower. In fact, that's what Phil Emery said to me, the general manager, before the game. He goes, the image of this guy as a wallflower is absolutely wrong. So after the game, I watched him, and Mike, he spent, I don't know, I'm guessing 15, 20 minutes. He must have talked to 25 guys in that locker room, a little snippet of a conversation and everything. And one of the players on the team, Chris Conti, was telling me this is a common thing. He's talking to everybody every day. So I view Trestman probably as more of an outgoing communicator than most of us thought. I think most of us thought of him coming into the league now as sort of the offensive Belichick, a guy who is not going to be very outgoing with his players. He's going to be a good strategic coach, but I think he might surprise us a little bit.
Who does better this year, Kelly or Trestman?
I think Chip Kelly's going to do a little bit better. I like the Eagles. I don't love their defense. I think they're going to score a lot of points with either Vic or Nick Foles playing quarterback.
I almost get the feeling, Peter, that Chip Kelly is toying with the idea of using both guys interchangeably based upon the defense they're facing, which quarterback matches up better. You think there's a chance we're going to see both guys?
I would not be at all surprised about that, Mike, because when I was there last Sunday, Michael Vick had as good a practice as you could have in that offense. First of all, they never huddled the whole day. At one point, he completes 7 in a row in 7-on-7, and he just looks very confident. It's a defense that Kelly preaches, take advantage of the mismatches, and it looks like Vic's doing that. But Foles look good too, so I wouldn't be surprised if he used them both. I think he wants to see which guy is going to be better over the long haul in this offense, and he just doesn't know that right now.
Wouldn't that really open a new frontier for every coach, though, if we could get to the point where you don't just have one quarterback, but you have two quarterbacks that you use interchangeably? Is that something that if it's successful in Philadelphia, you think other teams will copy?
Yeah, Mike, I think that's a fantastic point. If I'm Mike Shanahan right now, I want to use Kirk Cousins without any question. I don't know how much I want to use him, but I definitely, absolutely want to use him some, because every time he plays, he shows like he's a winning NFL quarterback. So let's say you're facing a real blitz-happy team that is going to hit Robert Griffin III, 8 or 10 more times than normal in the course of a game. Why not play Kirk Cousins some to try to keep some of the heat off Robert Griffin III?
Well, if in Baltimore they use two quarterbacks, they're not getting their money's worth out of Joe Flacco with all the money they've paid, and their head coach, John Harbaugh, is going to join us here in a few minutes. What do you think the chances, Peter, are of the Ravens getting back to the top of the mountain? It hasn't happened since the 03-04 Patriots. Any chance it happens this year?
Mike, I'll just tell you this. When I saw that defense, I said to a bunch of people there, I said it to Ozzie Newsome, your defense is better than it was last year. If you look at Darryl Smith, who's going to basically be kind of your stalwart inside linebacker now, even though he's not Ray Lewis, he sort of replaces Ray Lewis. You look at Elvis Dumerville to play opposite Terrell Suggs. Chris Canty, if he's healthy, he's good. Then you got Michael Huff and Elam, basically improving your secondary. So to me, I look at the Ravens and say, I think they could win a bunch of games in the teens, even if their offense does struggle. I definitely think they're going to be playing in January.
Well, great stuff, Peter. Safe travels. We'll see you in Denver in just a few weeks. Thanks for your time, buddy.
All the best, Mike. Take care.
Peter King, Football Night in America, the mmqb.com. Great stuff there.